That's because I'm using a Mac.
Got you all thrown off.
Yeah, my husband's like trying to talk me into it. He gets it all set up. I'm like, I don't know why you're doing this.
You doing all right then? Yeah. You don't sound too enthusiastic today.
I don't want any of it.
Lounging around today. You need to get outside and do much work. Foreign.
I think I got everything going. We'll see. Hello, I haven't seen you all day.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Monday, September 22nd. Make sure I got that right. Monday, September 22nd, 3 p.m. meeting of the Jacksonville Beach Community Redevelopment Agency. Clerk, if you would call roll, please.
Gerard Paytow,
Here.
Ron Whittington,
Here.
Megan Edwards,
Here.
Thad Mosley,
Here.
Kevin Myers,
Here.
Sydney Talcott,
Here.
Marcus Campy.
Here.
Great. We have a full contingent. The first order of business is courtesy of the floor to visitors. I did not have any specific requests for addressing the board. I don't know if we've received any since. No.
We have not. Madam Clerk, do you have any speaker cards?
Okay. We will move on to the next item, which is the approval of meeting minutes. We have a little catch up to do here. There are two
My bad.
meeting minutes, unfortunately, that we have to approve from last year. The regular meeting, November 18th, 2024. Are there any modifications or changes to those meeting minutes? Does anybody have any? Seeing none, before asking for a vote for approval, I just want to make sure. I assume that the only people that can really vote are those that were present at that meeting. I'm sorry. Okay.
On this board now, when we have an item for voting, unless you have a conflict of interest, that is like a legal conflict of interest, you have to vote. You can't abstain.
So everybody would vote, even though they were not specifically present.
Yep. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of Monday, November 18th, 2024.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in those favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting minutes pass. We have the next is the CRA workshop training meeting, which was held on December 16th, 2024. Are there any modifications or changes that anybody has to those meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor of approving the Monday, December 16th, 2024 meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. We have the next item on our agenda is old business. Does anybody have old business that they would like to bring up in reference to the board? Taylor?
Yes,
You
if that's
do.
okay with
Okay.
you. Just a couple of things
Hang on,
really quick.
excuse me, Miss Mobbs. Did we vote on the current set of minutes, 8:25?
You know what, Miss Jody Lynn, we did not. One more set of minutes to vote on. Our current ones, August 25th. Thank you, Jody.
I'm sorry.
We voted for both of the old minutes,
But then we have the regular meeting minutes. I'm
Yep.
sorry. I
No,
skipped
that's okay.
those. That's my fault. I got you. In reference to the regular meeting minutes of August 25th, 2025, are there any comments or changes to those meeting minutes? See, Megan?
If this was maybe discussed then, when we discussed the facade grant program about lowering the maximum award to 50,000. It's not mentioned in there, but I know we come back to it and with some frequency. If it was
I think that was discussed at the workshop we had prior to this.
okay.
And then this was where we formally amended it.
Okay.
But if we want to add a line in there that references, one of the changes was the reduction of the overall amount, I think that's fine.
Okay, yeah, if nobody has any objection.
That
Yes, please. I think that's something that needs to be done. Thank you.
Sure.
with that modification, are there any other changes or revisions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 25th, 2025. Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the 8/25/25 meeting minutes with that amendment regarding the maximum award amount of $50,000 for the facade grant program.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Okay. With that, all of those in favor of approval of the meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting minutes pass. And I'm sorry now to move on. Taylor, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Uh,
I missed it too, so I was too excited to talk to you guys. Couple of things. First and foremost, I heard some rumblings that the schedule has changed since last update. That is inaccurate. I have the last update right here. False information. It is not different. I verified that before I said this. So, the dates have not changed. Our November is the big one that shifts from our normal schedule. Normally we would meet on the fourth Monday. That's the week Thanksgiving. We are now meeting the Wednesday before because we couldn't get in the room the Monday before our normal one. So that one is a little all over the place. So if for some reason October, November, December do not work, let me know. I know the holidays start to get a little crazy for everyone. It happens. Everybody's traveling and doing different things. So if for some reason you cannot be there, just let me know as soon as possible. And then that way, if we're not going to have a quorum, we just know ahead of time. And then you also, on your upcoming meetings, I gave you guys basically the rest of the council briefings for the rest of the year, and then the rest of the council meeting dates for the rest of the year. That briefing in October, I put that one on there just because there'll be some legislative session recap from public affairs consultants. To be fair and to be clear, that's not the CRA specific consultants. Those are the consultants to the city, but they obviously still bring back information that's valuable to all of us. And then council will also talk about their priorities for legislative session. So that'll be on October 13th. And then those are the rest of the council meeting dates for October, November, and December on that. Both artists that we discussed at the last meeting have agreed and signed their contracts to do the bathroom murals at 2nd Ave and Oceanfront Park. We are really, really excited to work with them. Once again, kudos to the art committee and to you guys. You've picked two wonderful artists. So I believe they are both getting started late this week, early next week. So we will start to see some progress on those, with the goal being completion prior to the air show. And both artists seem to think they'll have no issue completing those before the air show. So fingers crossed, we don't have any crazy delays or anything weird. So everyone just keep your fingers crossed. And then once they are officially out on site, I'll email everyone, let you know that they're out there. I know several times art committee members and board members like to just kind of pop by when they can. So as soon as they are actually out there on the ground, I'll let you guys know. So again, super excited, super grateful that we've got just great local talent that's doing some really awesome work for us. And then the final big update that Parks sent out to council this morning. I don't know if they've actually started this morning. Someone that lives down there said when they came to work they hadn't started yet, but I think they have now started. The Jacksonville Drive corridor of the trails is starting. So that's another big win. Really squeaking in at the 11th hour here at the end of the fiscal year, but hey, it's before October 1, so we have started the Jacksonville Drive segment of the Urban Trail, so that's really excited. They anticipate 6 weeks to complete. There are no road closures required for this. If that changes, I will make sure to let everyone know, but as of the last update we got, 6 weeks, no roads need to be closed, so we're hoping that that stays the case. And they have also informed the HOA at Paradise Key, because it affects them, I guess, the most close to any homes in the area. And the information about the project is active on our website, our social media. And then tomorrow there will be a big Take Two Tuesday video just about the project itself to kind of reiterate to everyone what's going on. Other than that, we are in a very fun period with budget. The budget was passed, so we are funded for another fiscal year, so yay. Thank you to City Council and our Finance Department on all of their hard work with the budget. We are in our kind of dead zone right now where we are closing out everything for 25, and then we cannot start issuing until October 1. So once October rolls around, we anticipate hitting the ground pretty hard again. So happy to answer any questions anybody has, or...
clarification, if we can't make one of the meetings come up, especially December, just let you know via
Yes.
email. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and usually, knock on wood, especially now we have alternates, I don't think we'll run into too many issues, but it was before, like, I know Gary's been here long enough. I think we had a couple of Novembers and Decembers where when we just had 5, and I think one meeting, Gary was the only one that showed up. And we were like, great. So, it just helps if we know that one person isn't going to be there. I also like to let an alternate know, like, hey, by the way, really steady up. You're going to be voting at this meeting. It's just so I can make sure we have a quorum and then let anyone else know.
That was the time we got a lot of work done during that meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Agree with it as you go.
Yeah.
Just me and Gary. That's fine.
I've got a couple of comments I'd just like to make in reference to old business. The first is I want to thank staff for getting things going on the repaving of the Sunshine Park parking lot. They were out there plugging away this morning and tearing up a segment of it that needed to be torn up and repaved. At least that'll be some, I would call it temporary repaving, but we still have that big cave-in situation that ultimately needs to be addressed, but that's getting us in the right direction. Can you give us an update of the status of the development on 6th Avenue North? Is there any further information on that?
Private development, Deli Home Plaza. Oh. I was going to say, unfortunately, right now, there's nothing we can share.
There's nothing at all?
No, not right now.
Okay. I just haven't heard good things.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. As soon as we have an update that we are able to share, we will make that known. And if it is in between meetings, we will let you know via email or a phone call or something. But as soon as we have shareable information, you will know.
Okay.
What makes something shareable or unshareable?
A lot of things. An NDA would be the first one.
All right.
There are certain things that, depending on where things are in development and where developers are, there's just sometimes things we just can't share. And also, there are sometimes developers know that if something is in writing, if we have plans, if we have documents, those are public record. And so a lot of times if things shift or change or structure is changing, they don't tell us because they know that we 90% of the time would have to disclose that. So usually if we have something, a formal anything in writing, something from a meeting like that, we would be obligated to share. And I can say right now, unfortunately, we just don't have any of that available.
Sydney?
I just had a quick question about the Urban Trails project. So this is maybe my fault for not looking in the right place, but are the updates for that in the newsletter that goes out regularly?
They are. It probably was not in the last version though, because I do not believe there were any substantial updates last time it went out. But going forward, yes, there will be a section. But you probably didn't miss it. It likely wasn't there.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Thanks.
Any other comments in reference to old business? New business? Anybody have any new business to present? Taylor, do you want to kick us off?
Thinking. No, I feel like some of what I just shared, and I'm always really guilty of this, it's my fault, probably could have been new business. I just kind of like to combine new business and old business and just, maybe we should make an item that just is business. Really honestly, right now we are just really pushing hard on closing out all of our POs. That's pretty much what I've been doing since 7:30 this morning, is going through spreadsheets and figuring out what can close out, what needs to roll forward, what needs to pause, what we still have to fund. So we're just pretty deep in transitioning between 2 fiscal years right now. So yeah,
Okay.
Anticipate much more project heavy updates October.
Again, any comments from the board? Any thoughts? I have a couple that I just like to present. One, the FRA meeting is coming up in the middle of October, the 14th through the 17th, I believe. I assume, since you're our, so to speak, representative, you'll probably be attending the conference.
Yeah. Yep.
I just want to present to the board that if you have an interest in going, I think we would support, members of the board going to the FRA conference. It's a good way to learn about CRAs and what they're doing within the state, some of the new directions that they may be taking, what makes them successful or not successful. In fact, there's a very good program, which I've been to twice because I failed it the first time, was CRA 101. And it may be something, if you have the time, to go and just learn about a little bit more about CRAs. It's correct me if I'm wrong, Taylor. I believe it's held down at the Hilton West Palm Beach this year.
Yeah. So we'll be in West Palm in a couple of weeks. Maybe a bit late to register anyone else because I can't charge anything else this fiscal year. But I am attending, and then I've got on our next agenda a big recap from the conference on what we do and talk about. I mean, obviously, if somebody is just really chomping at the bit to go, we can try and figure something out. Like I know when they had it at Sawgrass, most of the board went just because those are usually a lot easier. Daytona, we had board members go. Those farther away ones, I usually end up flying solo. Or the really cool thing about the Southern group is when I'm even far away and Jim is not there, people will come up to me. It literally happened last year, and they were like, "Hey, you're in Jack's Beach, right? You work with Jim. We're the Southern group, but we're out of Miami." And so I end up making colleagues from all over the state because of the Southern group. So I wasn't alone. I made new friends. No, it's a great conference. A lot of, I believe, what we're going to be talking about this year is going to kind of circle around sort of what we saw during the legislative session and kind of some of the fallout from that, and where there were some bills that originated, ironically, from West Palm. That, there were some issues with CRAs and how we're structured, and there's changes to our reporting, and there's changes to when CRAs sunset. Now, the sunset stuff really doesn't affect us because we've already extended and we've already got our 60 years in. So, but it'll be really interesting to hear what other folks around the state are dealing with. And then there are several sessions on really kind of the future of CRAs and making the transition from over these kind of next 15 to 20 years of finalizing your projects, really getting through your heavy lifting, and then how do you transition the CRA and the TIF dollars into then city general fund, because eventually CRAs are going away unless something major changes at the legislature, and we just don't see that happening. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then there are a couple on marketing, branding, social media, actually very AI driven. I'm actually planning on attending one of those just because I'm very intrigued. We've got an AI committee now internally because it's just kind of becoming this new thing. So I'm very excited to hopefully learn a lot. I will have to attend the awards. Well, I shouldn't say that. I am able to attend the awards banquet this year because I am getting even though I finished it a year ago, I am now getting my big framed plaque for my redevelopment administrator certification. So I'll be recognized for that. Yeah. So it'll be fun. I'm excited.
What were those dates again?
It's the October 14th through the 17th. And I know, normally, and help me here a little bit, Taylor. Normally, we've, as a board, have approved certain members going to the conference. And if there is an interest, I think we would need to entertain that at this point and identify those individuals and then do a vote to approve attending that meeting. Is there an interest on the part of certain board members to attend?
Yes.
Okay.
It looks like the registration. Just so we know, the registration.
Registration's open.
It's still open.
My P card is not.
We understand. So if we had to pay for ourselves, that's okay.
Yeah. You could get reimbursed. I mean, I would need to. I shouldn't say I'm not comfortable until I talk to finance. We always have dollars in the budget for travel. I just need to make sure, however it's done and structured, we just follow what rules we need to follow. Because I would hate to tell somebody, go ahead and spend $2,000 on going to South Florida, and then just kidding.
Yeah.
But I would need to figure that out with finance. I know the last couple of years when they've been farther, I've been the only one. But I think that was just
Well,
It happened to be with everyone's schedule.
yeah, the year I went, I've gone twice. The first year I went, Heather was there.
Mhm.
We went down to Fort Myers, and then there was the most recent one, which was over in Ponte Vedra.
Yeah, and
Two.
Daytona, and then Tampa, and then now West Palm.
Yeah.
Do we know where 2026 will be located?
We
And
find out at the conference.
You find out at the
Mhm.
conference. Okay.
They're usually pretty good about, I feel like, kind of ping ponging them
Yeah.
back into. Like, one will be kind of South Florida, West Florida, and then it'll be
Panhandle.
well, I was going to say, in my almost 5 years, they have not gone to the Panhandle, so I will not be shocked at all if
It ends
I'm
up in
saying it
Penn
now. If 26 is in the Panhandle, I called it because they have not, in like I said, almost 5 years, they haven't been over there. So, yeah.
So again, you said you know, it could be worked out with finance and so forth. As
Yeah,
to
after the meeting, if
Yeah.
someone is interested in going, especially those of you that have not been able to go, just send me an email
Okay.
and we can try and work something out.
And I just want to it looks like on the 26th, the registration goes up by another $100.
Mm-hmm.
$100 is $100.
So is there an interest on the part of any of the board members to attend this meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Megan, you all?
I think I can't do it this year, but I would be interested in next
Okay.
year.
And same here. I'd be interested, but I got to prepare for a wedding. Not my wedding.
Okay.
Renewing your vows.
I'd be interested in future opportunities, but I don't know if I can make this year work.
Same here.
Okay.
Future.
So we have one board member, Marcus, who has indicated his interest in participating.
I'll coordinate with you and I'll
So-
talk to finance, see what we can do, and we'll
So
make something
I
happen.
will entertain a motion to approve Marcus attending the FRA meeting down in West Palm Beach on October 14th through the 17th.
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Well, second,
We have a second. If the clerk would do a roll call, please.
Ron Whittington,
Yes.
Megan Edwards,
yes.
Thad Mosley,
Yes.
Kevin Myers,
Yes.
Gerard Paytow.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Does,
Fingers crossed, we're going to West Palm.
okay.
All righty.
Thanks for your help, Taylor.
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate that.
It is. I mean, it's a great conference. So
The other item that I have under new business, I would appreciate if staff would try to work with the property owner that owns the empty property located. There's a small piece of it that butts out onto First Street, just north of Lynch's. There's between V's and Lynch's, there's an empty lot there, and the fence is broken. You know, vegetation needs to be trimmed. The trash needs to be picked up. It would be great if we could get that property owner to take a look at that and improve that image there. That's right there between those two spaces. It would just really make I think, a significant improvement on First Street. But that's all I have on new business. Does anybody else have anything to add? No? Okay, with that, we'll move into items for discussion. We have before us information relating to the South End Plan Amendment. Taylor, I assume this is something you've been working on for a bit.
just a little
If
bit.
you want to take us through that.
So I know this is kind of one of those things where I feel like I've talked about it until I'm blue in the face. I've been saying we're going to amend the plan. We're getting there. We're getting there. So it's really nice to kind of finally be very close to the finish line. Truly, first and foremost, for us, the most important thing was just having consistency across our plans. We were one of like the few CRAs where one plan was this beautiful, massive, great document. And, the content was fine in our plan, but when you go to conferences and places like this, there are literally awards for plans. I mean, there's no reason if you have the ability to have a nice, eye-catching visual plan that also has the statutory content, there is no reason not to have a pretty plan. We just really had to focus on downtown first. So biggest goal was just to make it mirror what we have with downtown. So when you're looking at them, you'll see they're very, very similar as far as style and layout. We covered current and future capital projects. And, just again, a little reminder, just because a project's in there doesn't mean we're authorized to move forward with it. It's just kind of one of those things. If something's not there, can't do it. So there'll be stuff in there that maybe we get to in a year, maybe we get to it in 10 years, but at least it's in the plan. We did add public art. That's something we've all discussed, that we had a desire to expand public art into the South End. We see a couple of opportunities, especially with some projects coming up that are going to have some really kind of big, awkward blank areas. That would be great for pieces of art. So we added that. The revenue is reduced to the 50%. That has been in place and in practice since before I got here. We analyzed and went all the way back that we have never ran into an issue, and the reduced increment is sufficient to cover our projects that we have identified and then our ongoing maintenance as well. And something actually I spoke with Sydney a little bit before the meeting, if there's a reduction in place, it doesn't, even right now, I want to also be clear, being in the plan, we are not authorizing the reduction. So again, it's one of those things that's in the plan and it's there. So that way, if and when we are doing a resolution to formally reduce the South End TIF, it's already in the plan. Just because we're approving it does not mean the reduction is already there. And then if at some point something drastic changes or we realize the 50% is not sufficient anymore, you do a resolution to amend the increment. It doesn't have to be forever. Happy, I can take questions as we go, or we can. You want me to finish? Okay. Yep.
Taylor just answered my question. The 50% could be changed in the future where circumstances to change.
Yep.
That's super. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
But Taylor, doesn't that have to, that goes through city council, right, for approval? And then once it's approved,
we have to notify COJ, and then just having that formal notice, basically it just means that instead of waiting until each fiscal year is wrapped and then we're reporting, okay, we only use the 50% reduction, so now we're able to return the other 50, and then part of that return comes back to the general fund. So we're kind of backfilling that general fund budget. That reduction is already in place. So then at the start of the fiscal year now, that's in place versus it being at the end. When it's not a permanent fixed reduction, you start your year every year with the full increment revenue amount, and then at the end of the year, the CFO basically, or the finance department, takes that 50% initially as soon as it comes, and it kind of goes into a reserve fund and we hang on to it. And then at the end of the year, it all goes back to the county, and then the county has to do the disbursement between themselves and then back to the city of Jacksonville Beach.
I guess I was under the impression that once we make this change, that it's a permanent change, and there's because you have to go back to the city of Jacksonville to get approval to.
But I mean that's not. It's not really much different than amending a plan. I mean, anything that we do that is amending anything that's governed under the state statute, which is almost everything. I mean, even when we sign and adopt resolutions, I have to notice the city of Jacksonville. So everything that we do goes, to COJ. Any budget amendment, any plan amendment, this reduction being formalized, all of that, it'll always go to the city of Jacksonville.
This just needs to be, I think, a real thoughtful process, or, we really need to make sure that we're comfortable in making this adjustment, because we're talking, in the document, it talks about sunset, being relatively soon, but sunset isn't until 2047.
Well, yes, but also, depending on your findings, we have to also remember the governing reason why we exist. It's the elimination of slum and blight. And once CRAs reach, just because you have a sunset date in 47 does not mean you have to exist until then. If you get to a point where, your district's done, you've completed your infrastructure, you've completed your capital projects, the intent of CRAs isn't to look for things to do. It's to do intentional projects that follow Chapter 163. And we may get there in 2035. We may get there in 2047. You just don't ever really know. But to your point of we really need to think and talk about this, I think we have a lot. This has been in practice literally since before I was here. It's been now 6 years. It's not necessarily a new concept. I could understand it maybe would be a little bit eyebrow raising if this was the first year and we were saying, hey, this is brand new, we're going to just cut this. But like I said, this has been something that we've analyzed pretty in depth, and it's been in place since 2019.
Well, we're, over 20 years, if we were to stay in existence for 20 more years, we're talking about $60 million roughly that would be going back to the, taxing agencies, which 2/3 of it goes to the city of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And 1/3 comes back to the city of Jacksonville Beach.
Right.
Which I understand that there is an interest in that because of the monies coming back to the general fund for that. Again, I just want to make sure we thought through, because if we're in existence longer, right now we've got approximately $14 million worth of capital improvement projects that need to be done in the south end based on the CIP. 7 million of it, or roughly half, is budgeted for this year for fiscal 26 to be done. Means we still have another 7 or 8 million to do, assuming there's nothing else that comes up, which means that we're probably another 2 to 3 years down the road before that's completely done or completely funded based on the 3 million that half of what we would get. I just want to be careful that we're making the right decision here and we're very comfortable with it. I can see us coming to the end. The question just is, when exactly is that? And also, there had been conversations about the fact that we would potentially do additional rework on the infrastructure and roadways down there, that once they needed some further help, even though it was, been in place for a while, that some of that could be done hopefully before we get into the sunset period, so there isn't a major cost that suddenly becomes a burden on the part of the city. So again, I'm just trying to wrap my arms around all of this and get comfortable with it. I don't want to give it away too quickly.
Well, again, to that point, it's 6 years. So this is we've been 6 years that we've been doing this. This is not a brand new concept or a return. It's.
Yeah, I understand that, but in talking with Public Works, they've also indicated that they've got $100,000 they're using this year to do some studies to determine what really needs.
Well, that's got to be careful as well, though, because depending on what projects Public Works is referring to and where they are, some of the projects that originally were done when the South End was created are now private roads. So those are things that, even though we initially did them, we can no longer touch.
Exactly, and that's why. But they're saying
they
need to go back and take a look at their engineering, because they're not sure of everything that needs to be done.
Right, but if some of it's in the city CIP, then we can't touch that either. So from the origination of some of these projects, oh, I'm sorry, something funny?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I thought you were laughing. I was
just
okay.
Not laughing.
So, there's just a lot of regulatory things with this stuff. I wish these were conversations we also could have had some time to talk prior. I could have set up some time with the CFO. So, she's obviously the expert on this. She is far more well-versed in this than I am. So that's, usually when we send out the agendas and things, that's why I always encourage everyone, please, questions, comments, concerns, just so I can make sure you have what you need to be comfortable. I don't know where Ashley is right now. I can't exactly run upstairs and grab her. But, if you have concerns, that, it's completely valid, and I'll do my best to answer them, but there are just sometimes going to be things I can't even answer that are more technical that will need to come from the CFO.
Well, the only thing I guess I'm leading to is whether or not it makes sense for us to have a conversation with council and just make sure we're all on the same page as to what, where this needs to go. Because ultimately it's not necessarily a CRA final decision, it's really a council final decision.
And council could, to be clear, they could opt to do this next meeting. It's one of those things, it's again, can't reiterate something enough. It's in the plan. It doesn't mean that it's happening tomorrow. This has been a conversation that has been ongoing even with city council. I think even some of the council prior to the one we have now, that eventually we would do this. Again, it's because, number one, you can't just build dollars in a CRA trust fund. So if there's money sitting there at the end of the fiscal year, it's not like a normal bank account where, okay, great, we've got, 10 million bucks sitting somewhere, 5 million bucks, it can just stay there. We can't do that. And you also can't just kind of find things to tag it to. They have to be concrete, validated projects. And so back in 2019, we realized we've done so much work. We can't hang on to this money. It made more sense at that time to return the 50% and then get that bump back to the general fund, because then what we can do is then now the general fund receives this bump and then they can do other services, other places in the city with those funds. That's the biggest driving force, is just being able to still supplement and have that additional fund coming back to the general fund.
No, and I appreciate what you're saying there, is that it is a challenge, because if we don't have projects to assign the monies to, that's an issue because of the state statutes. Again, I'm just trying to make sure that we've thought through this, because this is, in my opinion, this is a big decision that goes down the road, and we probably all won't be here when we get to the latter stages, and I just want to make sure that those who follow us don't end up having to deal with some bigger issues and bigger financial constraints. But again, I'll open it up for further conversation. I think I've said enough. Thad, I'll start with you.
One issue that we really haven't mentioned in this conversation is that both of the redevelopment areas have ongoing commitments in regards to maintenance, and particularly downtown, the extra policing, things like that. So I can't imagine that we would be sunsetting these prior to statutory 2047.
Well, they don't have to sunset together, so
I
downtown
understand.
can stay.
I understand, but I still believe that there will be some ongoing maintenance issues
Mhm.
regarding our improvements in the south end.
Mhm.
And it may make sense to maintain a small CRA budget,
yeah.
perhaps even less than 50%, but
Well, I think 50 is as low as we're allowed to go by the state.
okay,
But
well, whatever.
to your
But
point, yes,
the
I
point
agree.
is, let's remember maintenance.
Yeah.
Because maintenance is everything, and frankly, maintenance in the downtown area has, for many years, off and on, been extremely shoddy.
Yeah, and that's something too. I know some people have heard the CFO when we're talking about these projects. I don't think everyone on the board has heard it because we haven't had this come up in a while, but that's something she always brings up when we do have massive capital projects such as Latham, for example. Yes, statutorily, we do actually have to provide a service above and beyond what the city and the general fund provide. However, our CFO is always like, well, don't forget, eventually the city has to maintain whatever you do. So maintenance is something that not only are we trying to keep in mind while the lifespan of the districts, but also having to really, to Gary's point, people that are here long after everyone on this board is, what is that going to look like for the council in 2050 when they're now having to take on the maintenance as well of all these projects?
Well, it's obvious that some thought is being given to it because the landscaping and re-landscaping is being done in a much more maintainable way.
Absolutely.
Things are going the right direction, but just thinking about several years, the CRA has been spending a lot of money downtown. There's been some awfully shoddy maintenance of the improvements that have been made.
Mm-hmm.
Things are better. The landscaping is much better, but again, we need to remember maintenance, not just capital projects.
Absolutely.
And of course, the police that we're paying, a half dozen folks?
Yeah, 11.
Yeah, 11. Okay.
A little more.
Half a dozen a shift.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Marcus, I think you have some comments. Your microphone.
To my understanding, then, how much of this money actually goes to COJ?
Of that 50%?
Yeah,
Basically 2/3.
I'm all in favor of limiting the amount that goes to them and keeping as much as we can in Jack's speech.
Unfortunately, there's so many regulatory things tied to us.
So
We legally can't.
okay, so by reducing the TIF, let's say to 25%,
Can't. Gotta stay at 50.
You have to stay at 50.
Yep, that's as low as the state statute allows.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm being just like a brick wall right now. Everything
No,
I'm
it's
like,
okay.
nope.
I just don't want them to get any more money than they already get because I feel like they get way more than they should in the first place. I'm just gonna flat out
You're
say that, and so
valid concerns.
and I
hear
have an
ya.
issue with that.
I hear you.
And the COJ,
I promise. Our goal is absolutely to obviously protect the CRA districts, but then also in areas such as this where we're now able to protect a little bit of or provide additional investment dollars outside of the district. It's a benefit to the city as a whole, not just the districts. And we take back as much as we are legally allowed to. And that is not an us or even necessarily,
is that because of the interlocking agreement?
no, that is because of state statute.
Got it.
That supersedes all of us, unfortunately.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the challenge, and that's why I'm trying to be, I think, a
I
little bit more
understand.
sensitive about, just being careful when, because there are so many constraints and criteria that we have to follow,
Mhm.
and I just want to make sure we do it right. That's all I'm trying to get to. Kevin?
So Gary, I want to continue down your path, but I'm going to ask the question a little differently. So it sounds like for at least the last 6 years, this 50% threshold has worked out, but we've worked it out on the back end of the year. Okay. I'm going to reframe the question a bit. So assume we do approve this 50% change to the plan and move down that path. What happens in the scenario in which we've identified that we need more money, or would have to potentially claw that back?
Yeah. So
Is that a possibility? Is
yeah,
that something that
it is. Again,
leverage?
your increment revenue, the dollars that you take back, there's certain statutes you have to follow, and then it's based on your CRA structure. So let's say we get to 2028, right? And we're like, oh gosh, we need 75% this year. Fortunately, again, we've got a great finance department that would notice that. They would see that well in advance of the budget season, and then the CRA would take a resolution, in theory, approve it, saying we are going to change that increment revenue. That would then go to city council, and they would agree that, we have justification. This is why we have this project coming up. We're going to need X amount of dollars more. And then that would ultimately have to go to city of Jacksonville.
Okay. That's helpful. I think understanding that there's a lever that can be pulled to kind of adjust our sales if and when we get there is at least helpful for me. Thank you.
So how then does that work? Because now you're only giving them 25% back to where we were just discussing.
Yeah.
So how does that?
Downtown right now, we take 95% of the revenue.
Okay.
So that split is still the same. It's just a significantly less amount. And so your CRA districts your disbursement of the trust fund has to be between 50 and 95%.
Mm-hmm.
So like right now, our downtown is maxed out. We take as much back as possible, and it's a very small bump back that goes to COJ. Obviously, when you're down to 50%, you've got half of that pot of money that's got to go back somewhere. And then, like I said, that third comes back to the city of Jacksonville Beach. So the process isn't any different. The structure, the percentages aren't any different. It just depends on where you're at on that scale. And for downtown, and I really don't see a kind of to Thad's point with everything we've got going on, and even the ongoing maintenance of our investments, and knowing we've got Latham Plaza, public-private partnership, potentially, dare I say, taking on First Street in the near future, all these massive, massive projects. We've never been in a situation where at the end of the year, we're not able to allocate any leftover funds. So there has never had to be an additional return like we're seeing with the South End. We always have dollars earmarked for that next fiscal year, and then usually several beyond that. And then downtown, properties have to be on the tax rolls for one full year before they count in towards your increment revenue. So when we saw like Margaritaville went up and Spring Co went up and all these big hotels, Element, they were in operation from our end, it looked like almost 2 years before those were then hitting our increment revenue just because of how the state requires them to be on the property tax record. And so, again, when we have a massive potential private development, and then potentially something at 6th Ave North, and then if something ever, if anyone develops behind Seawalk Pavilion, those are going to still be projects that just kind of continue building up that downtown fund.
But then how does that get away from the 25% being federal? Or I should say state, not federal.
I'm not following.
So when I said to reduce the TIF to 25%, that's keeping 75. What's the difference between the question that he just asked?
The limit's 50.
But then how are we then able to,
No, I'm be honest, I'm not following.
I can see that. I'm trying to figure out now how to reword the question.
I think I can answer your question.
Okay.
Please.
It's 2/3 to Big Jacksonville, 1/3 to the city of Jacksonville for any funds that are, be it 50% as we're discussing now, or be it 25% as you mentioned, it would still be 2/3, 1/3 split.
Okay.
That's the answer to your question.
Thanks for the help, Ben.
Okay, yeah. Okay, when you were saying 25%, you weren't meaning reducing to 25% of the increment. You were meaning 25 being left over. That's where my disconnect was. That's my bad. I assumed you meant that. My fault. That's why I was like, huh?
Rephrase wrong.
I am 100%. I'm following you now. Sorry about
gotcha.
that. My bad. That's
no,
on
you're
me.
good. That's why I was trying to figure out. I was like, how is that capable when?
Nope. That and now knowing what you meant, now I'm like, now I see completely why you're looking at me like I had 3 heads. Like, wait a minute, what? That's what I just asked you. Sorry.
Are there any other comments in reference to this specific item?
Just clarification. The council votes this, correct?
No. Yes and no. I hate when I have to answer questions
That's all
like
right.
that. It's so sideways. But everything, the way we're structured,
Okay.
stuff like this always comes through you guys first. I mean, you are the ones living in this document. Projects are coming out of these documents. So everything starts with the CRA.
Okay.
We then vote on it. And in theory, and also this maybe is also my fault for not maybe being clearer in my memo. We're not voting on anything today. So
Correct.
everybody take a deep, we're good. We don't have to vote today, I promise. We can talk all afternoon. And next meeting would then in theory be where we could take feedback, changes, comments, concerns, and then kind of fine tune the document and then bring a resolution to amend the South End plan, which would just kind of be phase 1 in all of this. So then we would amend the plan. And in the memo, kind of like I said, just because it's in the plan doesn't mean it has to happen.
Right.
If then after, truly, I don't foresee us putting that resolution for the 50% reduction formalized until the first of the year, just given what I know is coming up and how busy and packed council agendas are. And just this time of year kind of gets weird anyway. So maybe it would be appropriate to have another workshop or another meeting where we could have finance come and have some more conversations. And then we would bring a resolution to you guys for the reduction or not, or whatever we decided to do. And then if that was adopted, that would also then go to council and then to City of Jacksonville.
So we recommend to the council, they make the final decision.
Yep.
And is this revisited every year?
No. No. State recommends as far as plans go that we should be revisiting these every 3 to 5.
Okay.
So, but the beauty of plans is that if in 2 months after you approve a plan, you realize, oh, you know what, we forgot something, or this really actually isn't what we wanted, we can amend them as many times as we want. There's no limit there.
You just answered what I wanted to find out. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Marcus?
Yeah. So once this is done, then most of the land that we have has now been built out. So our CRA role moves more to upkeep and ongoing maintenance funding.
Yeah, our CFO actually has coined a pretty, she always kind of says operation and maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't anticipate we'll see too many new projects, and I always have to say I don't anticipate because anything can happen. We just never know. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll see a lot of completion and kind of our remaining bigger projects with the completion of some trail segments, the remaining infrastructure, and then Passive Park. and then just continuing to invest dollars back into our initial investments.
So, do we have a potential foreshadowing of maintenance costs already in place?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. And of course, there are always estimates, right? I mean,
Right.
we can assume something's going to be easy to maintain, and then the very next year it can go haywire.
Yeah.
But we do track what we're already spending, and then we kind of try to balloon those costs out, knowing there'll be some inflation, and keep a rough estimate.
Okay.
I think the document that you put together, second paragraph under conclusions, describes it very well as to where we are with the CRA now South End District and what we need to be looking at. It's just that there are some larger capital improvement projects that are still on the list right now, which entail roughly $14 million. And again, half of it's being funded this year. We've got another 7 to 8 million that needs to be funded down the road to accomplish all of those things, subject to final input from Public Works, from the way I understand it, that they're still looking at things, they're re-engineering some things. I think we're there where, you know, the returning half of the funding makes sense. It's just making sure that nothing pops up that surprises us, I guess, and that's the
that
thing that I'm
can
trying
happen. I mean, to your point, that can happen. We obviously all hope it never does, but things can. Absolutely. The only hesitant to even say, like, the only kind of comfort there is, you know, usually when we approve our budget every fiscal year, we approve millions of dollars and we allocate them to projects. I wouldn't say 70% usually flow along pretty smoothly, but you always have those fiscal years where something is unfortunately going to get pushed to the next year. The benefit in working in districts where you're receiving increment revenue is it's really usually, knock on wood, pretty easy to budget out because you usually know what you're going to get and you're able to really look at your revenues, know what's going to be on the property taxes that following year, and it's really easy to kind of keep a nice fine line of where you're going. We've had in the past, Latham Plaza, I think, was budgeted, maybe 2 years ago or something, and we had another capital project come up, and we were very quickly aware that, hey, Latham is definitely not going to happen. So in those situations, we were able to, you know, approve modifying a budget or kind of shifting some money. And so those are things that you can do, and it's within the state statute that you can do. They're not ideal, obviously, but in those emergency situations, there is wiggle room. It's not always perfect, but you always have a little bit of a safety net.
Marcus, another way to look at it too is that over the 20-year period of time, we get half the funding. And half the funding is we're looking at $60 million over 20 years. So there are funds there to do things with. It's just hopeful that we don't have some big event that occurs that, you know, plus or prices rise to, you know, a number that...
I just don't want to give the COJ more than they need.
And I understand what you're
End of discussion.
Okay. Any final comments on this specific item?
A final comment. You did a very good job.
Thank
The
you.
contents is very well written,
Hey,
easy to
this
follow, graphically
This
great.
is all
So,
the discussions with you guys.
you know,
This is
I
y'all's
know
content.
it takes a while to make this look pretty. So,
Yeah, we're excited with it. There was something I wanted to draw your attention to, and I'm going to be really blunt. I don't remember. I knew as soon as we started talking, I should have written it down, and I did not. So that's great. You will see starting December 1 of this year, I think mostly everyone was on the board last year when this change went into effect. We've got to just basically take what was in our CIP and publish it publicly on the website. It's a new box to check. It's a new regulatory compliance thing. We already do our annual report. We already do these reports. We already do strategic planning. So now we're going to have basically your objectives out of your CIP, and then we have to publish those goals and objectives. So that'll go live December 1, but we will bring the pretty version of that. I've been on a kick lately on making documents aesthetically pleasing. So that document will come to you guys next month just for you to be able to take a look at, and kind of it looks back on FY25 and what we budgeted for, where we allocated our funds, where they went, and then what is kind of left over and what we'll be carrying forward. And that is a new requirement by the state. But that is referenced in here as well, that goals and objectives have to be up by December 1 of 25. Oh, I just know what it was now. Mr. Chair, you referenced Public Works and a project that they were having to kind of take a look back on and kind of almost redo a study to figure out the feasibility or if there was. I'm glad you actually brought that up. That is something that came up during our budget meetings this fiscal year because there had been a very substantial. It was like millions, had like 7 million. It was something astronomical. Had been kind of sitting in a line for several since before I got here in 21, and it had just been carrying over every year. And finally, the city manager was like, look, what is this? And the gist of it kind of came out that the study was done years and years and years ago. Nobody that participated in it is even here anymore. No one could really honestly justify why or what it was ever going to be. So there were $100,000 allocated in this budget to do a study of this. What is it, a basin or something? And to actually just do a study ourselves, figure out if what they were recommending is actually even relevant anymore. And if it's not, obviously we're not going to do it, or if it's a different scaled down version. But it was something that had just kind of gotten tagged along and rolling over. And finally this year during budget, we were like, okay, enough. We're going to kind of take it back to ground zero since no one really knows the validity of this or if it's necessary, and kind of start from scratch and make sure whatever we're doing and investing in is actually necessary.
And that's basically the way I understood it also, is
Yep.
that it's really backtracking a little bit because unfortunately we lost a little bit of history when our city engineer passed away. And so some information was lost during that period of time.
Yeah.
And so we're backtracking. Some new engineering work and infrastructure had been installed that may not need all of the things that were identified in the original 2011 plan. So,
and technology has changed so much.
So they're going back and revisiting that to make sure they have their arms around everything as it relates to the infrastructure in the south end. And I just want to make sure that our residents down at the south end get the improvements that are needed, particularly from a stormwater management standpoint, because of the issues that we're all dealing with from a climate change standpoint and the impacts that that's having. I want to make sure if we've got the funds, let's make sure we get it done. And anyways, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, that jogged my memory. I'm glad you brought that up. That's kind of where that has shifted a little bit, and hopefully we'll find that there are some minor improvements or minor things that we can do because of upgrades to technology and that things have changed. But yeah, as we get that underway in this next fiscal year, we'll obviously, I'm sure at some point in the next coming months, have a much larger update on that.
Any specific follow-up? Did you want to add anything else in reference to the other parts of this document, Taylor?
No, honestly, I know, like I said, thank you for your patience. We've been talking about this for a few months, that we've needed to amend this plan. We knew we would get to it at some point, and we're very happy that point is now. Also, totally on purpose, that it's falling perfectly in line with the upcoming fiscal year. That was not an accident at all. That was completely planned. So we will bring this hopefully back to you. Like I said, it'll be this attachment with any modifications needed with a formal resolution, first resolution of FY26. We'll come back to you guys next month. And then that will subsequently go to City Council. And then I don't think we've actually amended a plan with everyone on the board. So you guys, in theory, let's say approved it in October. I then have to, per state statute, get with a local written publication, and I have to advertise 10 days at minimum prior to the City Council public hearing of the plan, and then it has to go to City Council for a public hearing, and then we all have to notice that appropriately. So there's, again, a lot of regulation that comes along with this. So what I did, I think the last time I did downtown was, once we knew we were bringing you guys the resolution, we kind of mapped out, okay, on this date it's coming to you guys. You'll see it in this newspaper on this day. That's 15 days before this council meeting. Council will look at it then. And then we have to notice COJ so many days prior before council sees it. Then we have to let them know it's coming. And so there's just a lot of regulatory stuff with it. But I'll make sure to map all that out for you guys.
Give you one more thing.
That
One more thing, obviously, property tax appraisals go up, but they're capped at inflation or 2 or 3%, whichever's less. And inflation has been known to run in excess of that. So you can get a lag between inflation, cost of projects, and the tax base.
Oh, yeah.
However,
Oh,
if inflation behaves, the two will move in a similar fashion. However, we have elements in our state government that are agitating to eliminate property taxes, which would totally blow up the entire basis for everything that we do here. So it's something to keep an eye on. I'm not expecting it to happen, but it's certainly being politicked over pretty hard in Tallahassee, and they come over
Always
here and
advocate
preach
to
it. They
your
come over here and
representatives.
preach it too.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Sydney, did you have a couple of comments?
Yeah, this is just a small thing, and I know we already chatted about this, but I just wanted to reiterate that I love the addition of public art in the
Yeah,
plan,
me
and
too.
just like the consistency across our projects, and even in the social, like the Take Two Tuesdays and social media, like we're featuring our public art, and so just makes me very proud. So just saying.
Yeah, we've had a lot of success with that program. It's been really cool, and I don't know that I've shared it, but several communities since the last FRA conference. Actually, I did a session on public art, and we've had probably 6 reach out, and I've met with some via phone, Zoom, whatever, and kind of walked them through what we did and how we're not artists, so we made this committee, and this committee makes recommendations, and so it's been really neat to see other folks take notice of what we're doing. And also, it's not all just pretty. It does all follow, crime prevention through environmental design. So, we're helping to keep the area safer by getting more eyes on buildings and more people in the area. And so we're excited to hopefully do the same thing in South End.
Taylor, I would just say there's a couple of questions that I have as it relates to looking at the strategic priorities, the priority 1 in particular. There's a couple of references to the downtown, and I wonder if that's really what you meant there, or if we're really talking.
No, that was a typo on my part,
Okay.
my end.
I wasn't
That's
sure.
yep.
Okay.
No, so our priorities and objectives kind of all go from the council priorities and objectives. And I'll be honest, I cheated a little bit on some of these, and on these objectives, I copy and pasted from downtown because they're the same. And I just missed the word downtown on a few. So I've got to go back and proofread
That's fine.
that.
I just wanted to make sure I understood. I thought that's what we were saying.
Absolutely.
And then I guess along the same lines, it's just the strategic project list, the artwork, which Sydney, I agree with you. It's great to see this in here. I'm assuming that number is to be 100,000 versus.
Yeah.
Okay.
The city attorney caught that typo before this meeting, and I fixed it on my version. But I put the comma in the wrong spot. That's my fault.
Does anybody else have any final comments in reference to this? Is there anything else that you need, Taylor, from us as it relates to this document?
Right now, no. Like I said, you guys have done a lot of legwork leading up to this point. I know we've workshopped this and talked about it quite a bit. So we will plan to bring next meeting, wherever my paper is. We've got this. We'll come back to you guys. We'll have our FRA conference recap, and hopefully our board member will attend with me, and we will not run into any issues there, getting you all registered for that. And then we will also the CFO will bring you guys the year-end fund balance appropriation for South End and downtown. And she and I and the city manager met about that, and that's where we're going to bring the goals and objectives, kind of that look back on FY25 to you guys then, because it really makes sense, because that's basically what you're doing with the year-end fund balance appropriation anyway. So we're going to kind of bring those as one big document to you guys.
Okay.
So that can
Thank you. There is no other item on the agenda for this afternoon, unless anybody has any final comments or
wonder if our council person is.
nothing. If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Thank you.